Ever feel that chill run down your spine when you're alone in a dark room? That feeling you're being watched? For most of us, it's just our imagination. But for some, that feeling is the start of a story they'll never forget. Today, we're diving into the shadows of childhood, exploring real accounts of encounters that turned innocent playtime into pure terror. These stories come from people just like you and me, who, as kids, saw something they couldn't explain, something that still haunts them. Let's start with a story from a woman named Sarah. When she was 7, her family moved into an old Victorian house, the kind with creaky floors and drafty windows. Sarah's favorite toy was a porcelain doll named Lily, a gift from her grandmother. Lily had glass eyes that seemed to follow you, and a painted-on smile that felt a little too wide. One afternoon, Sarah was playing in her room, setting up a tea party for Lily and her other dolls. Her mom called her downstairs for a snack. She left Lily sitting in a tiny chair at the head of the table. When she came back, maybe 10 minutes later, the room was cold. All the other dolls were scattered on the floor, and Lily was sitting in the middle of the room, facing the door, as if waiting for her. Sarah felt a knot of dread in her stomach. She put Lily back in the chair, cleaned up the mess, and tried to forget it, but it kept happening. She'd leave the room and come back to find Lily in a different spot. Sometimes on her bed, staring at the ceiling. Other times, she'd be by the window, looking out into the yard. Sarah told her parents, but they just smiled and said she had a vivid imagination. One night, she woke up to a faint scratching sound. It was coming from the corner of her room, where her toy chest was. She froze, pulling the covers up to her chin. The scratching stopped, and she heard a soft thud, like something small had fallen onto the wooden floor. Then, a slow, dragging sound, getting closer and closer to her bed. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, too scared to look. She felt a weight press down on the mattress, right next to her legs. She lay there, trembling, for what felt like hours, until the morning sun finally streamed through her window. When she dared to open her eyes, Lily, the doll, was lying on the covers beside her, its glass eyes staring right into hers. The family moved out less than a year later. Sarah left the doll behind, tucked away in the attic. She says she sometimes wonders if Lily is still there, waiting for the next little girl to play with. Our next story comes from a man named Mark, who grew up near a dense forest in the Pacific Northwest. He and his friends spent their summers building forts and exploring the woods. They had one rule: be home before the sun sets. The woods, they were told, changed after dark. One evening, Mark and his best friend, Leo, lost track of time. The sun was dipping below the trees, casting long, eerie shadows. They started heading back, their a little too late laughter echoing through the silent forest. That's when they heard it, a whistle. It wasn't a bird, and it wasn't human. It was a single, high-pitched note that seemed to come from everywhere at once. They stopped, listening. The whistle came again, closer this time. Panic set in. They started running, branches whipping at their faces. The whistling chased them, sometimes sounding like it was right behind them, other times like it was far off to the side. Pazinti, a flanking maneuver. They could hear something heavy crashing through the undergrowth, keeping pace with them. They didn't dare look back. They just ran, fueled by pure adrenaline. Finally, they burst out of the tree line and into the clearing bedding on of their neighborhood, gasping for air. The whistling stopped. The sound of pursuit vanished. They stood there, hearts pounding, and looked back at the dark, menacing line of trees. Nothing. They never spoke about what happened. but they also never stayed in the woods after dusk again. Mark says that even now, decades later, whenever he hears a high-pitched whistle, his blood runs cold, and he's a 10-year-old boy again, running for his life. Have you ever played hide-and-seek and found a hiding spot that was a little too good? Our third account is from a woman named Chloe. She was about 8, playing hide-and-seek with her cousins in their grandparents' sprawling old farmhouse. It was Chloe's turn to hide. She dashed into her grandparents' master bedroom, a room that was usually off limits. She found the perfect spot, a large antique wardrobe in the corner. She slipped inside, pulling the heavy wooden door almost shut, leaving just a tiny crack to peek through. She could hear her cousins shouting her name, Tam, and the footsteps pounding on the floorboards. The minutes ticked by. The sounds promo cow further away as they searched downstairs. It was dark and musty in the wardrobe, smelling of cedar and old perfume. As her eyes adjusted, she noticed something odd. In the deepest, darkest corner of the wardrobe, behind the heavy winter coats, she saw 2 small, glowing points of light. She squinted, thinking it was a reflection, but they didn't flicker. They were steady, and they were low to the ground, like the eyes of a small animal. Then, she heard a low, soft growl. It wasn't a cat or a dog. It was a guttural, menacing sound that vibrated through the floor of the wardrobe. Chloe's heart leaped into her throat. She was trapped. Whatever was in there with her knew she was there. She held her breath, praying her cousins would find her. Suddenly, the bedroom door creaked open. One of her cousins yelled, "Found you," and yanked open the wardrobe door. Light flooded in. Chloe scrambled out, gasping, and looked back. The corner was empty. There was nothing there but a pile of old blankets. Her cousins laughed, teasing her for being scared. But Chloe knew what she saw and what she heard. She never went near that wardrobe again. She said the memory isn't about what she saw, but about the suffocating feeling of being cornered in the dark with something unknown. Our final story for today takes us to a quiet suburban neighborhood. A boy named David, around 9 years old, had an imaginary friend. This isn't unusual for a child, but David's friend, who he called Mr. Shadow, was different. David didn't describe a person or an animal. He described a tall, thin man made of flickering shadows, who only appeared in the corner of his eye. His parents didn't worry, assuming it was a phase. David would talk to Mr. Shadow for hours in his room. But then, David started to get scared. He told his mom that Mr. Shadow was starting to say mean things. That he wanted David to do bad things, like breaking his toys, or being mean to the family cat. His parents tried to reassure him, telling him he was in control, that Mr. Shadow was just part of his imagination. One night, David's parents were woken up by a terrifying scream from his room. They rushed Akka and found David huddled in the corner of his bed, pointing at the opposite wall, his face pale with terror. "He's mad," David sobbed. "Mr. Shadow is mad." His parents looked where he was pointing. There was nothing there. But the room was ice cold. They tried to comfort him, but David was inconsolable. He kept staring at the corner, shaking. His father, trying to prove there was nothing to be afraid of, walked over to the spot and stood there. He turned on a lamp, flooding the corner with light. "See, David, there's nothing here." As he said that, the brand new bulb in the lamp flickered violently and then popped, plunging the corner back into darkness. At the exact same moment, every single toy on David's shelves criterios off and crashed to the floor. They moved David into their room that night. The next day, they brought in a child psychologist, and eventually, after many sessions, David stopped talking about Mr. Shadow. As an adult, David has no memory of these events. His parents, however, have never forgotten the cold in that room, or the sound of all those toys falling at once. They believe something was with their son, something far from imaginary. Childhood is meant to be a time of innocence, but for some, the veil between our world and something else is thin. These stories remind us that sometimes, the monsters aren't just in our closets or under our beds. Sometimes, they're sitting right beside us, waiting for playtime to end. What do you think? Are these just overactive imaginations, or are they glimpses into something we can't explain? Let me know your own spooky childhood stories in the comments below. I'd love to read them. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed these chilling tales, don't forget to like this video and subscribe Black Lantern Files for more journeys into the unknown. Stay safe out there.